Chapter 6, Part 2. In this part of the video, we're going to talk about behavioral genetic methods. So, how do we go about studying the interaction of genetics and the environment to look at how personality is affected, right? So, first we'll look at selecting breeding. That's selective breeding with dogs, and then we'll look at family and twin and adoption studies. So the fact that we can selectively breed for not only physical traits, like these dogs here, they were bred to have the webbed feet, right? So that they're better swimmers. They can be bred for different physical characteristics, right? But they can also be bred for different personalities, right? So Labradors, Labs, they were born to be very social, very friendly, very agreeable, right? Whereas other dogs, say Dobermans or other types of dogs, can be bred to be more aggressive. So that's sort of evidence that yes, you can breed for personality traits, and personality traits therefore do have a physiological basis. We study the interaction of environment and genetics through family studies and adoption studies, right? And twin studies. So correlates the degree of genetic overlap among family members with a degree of similarity personality trait. So we know that within a family, we know how much genes people have similar to each other, right? So brothers and sisters is 0.5. Identical twins share 100% of the same genes. So they have it mapped out, right? So your grandchild or your aunt or your uncle, they have scores for all of those. So we know what sort of genetic overlap there is. So because we know that, we can then therefore tease out the environment piece. Okay, problem with family studies. If they're just looking at families, they also share the same environment, so confounds genetic with the environment. That's why twin studies are better. They were sort of mentioning this here, family studies, but don't do a lot of research there. It's mostly to do with twin studies. So within twin studies, you've got monozygote twins and dizygote. So identical twins, the mono means one, right? One zygote. They share 100% of the same genes. Fraternal twins are like siblings. They share 50%. So if monozygote twins are more similar than dizygote twins, it provides evidence of heritability. Let me see. Let me just go ahead here. Okay. So when you're studying monozygote and dizygote twins, if they're in the same environment, then you can tease things out. A bit of the problem with what you want to do actually is have them in different environments. So you want to look at twins that were split and adopted into different families at birth or shortly after, right? These can be fraternal twins here. However, they look like regular brothers and sisters, and families tend to treat them like different people, right? Whereas when you have identical twins, they're often dressed the same, they look the same, they're treated the same. So that sort of confounds with the environment piece. So you do want to have it that they're grown up in different. So if you have these two twins here and they are separated at birth and they grow up in different environments, then you've teased out the environment piece, right? Then you can see what personality traits do they both have that are the same, right? So if we look back here at Jim, the Jim twins, right? So that's what happened with them. And they grew up, and at the age of 39, They were incredibly similar on all on personality tests, certain attributes, physically, and many different ways. They were exactly the same. So that provides evidence for the genetic piece. If they grow up in different environments and they're very different, then that's going to be evidence of more of an environmental effect. And you can do the same with the dizygote twins. So in adoption studies, you examine the correlations between adopted children and their adoptive parents, where there's no sharing of genes. So that isolates the environment, right? So it produces evidence of an environmental influence. Oh, that's supposed to say B. You can also examine the correlations between the adopted children and their genetic parents, and that provides evidence of genetic influence. So let's say that my child was adopted out, right? When she or he or whatnot was very young. And then we look how we are the same or similar or different when that child is 20. If we are very, very similar, then that is evidence of a genetic component to whatever that trait is, right? So we should have similar scores on intelligence tests, right? Whether the child was with me or with the child was adopted. So you can look at differences between, right? Then you can also look at differences or similarities between my child that was adopted out and their adoptive parents, because if they are very similar on certain scores, then that provides evidence of the environmental effect. Problems. Assumption that adopted children, their adoptive and genetic parents are representative of the general population. Questionable. Problem of selective placement of adopted children. So when children are adopted, quite often they're placed, right? They're placed with parents that are similar to, say, the child, right? They try to line them up. So that's a bit of a problem there if that occurs, because then it's not random, right? Most powerful research design is that combines the strengths of the twin and the adoption studies. That's the twins reared apart that we were talking about before, when they are reared apart right from birth. But that's very hard to find, especially now, right? Considering that you're probably wanting to keep siblings together. Anyways, so those are the three different types of studies that they do to tease out the environment and the genetic effects. Not so much the family studies. I wouldn't focus too much on that, but be aware of it. But take a look at the twin studies versus the adoption studies, the strengths and the possible problems with each. Those are the main studies. So in the next video, we are going to be looking at this part. Well, I guess this will be part 3, the major findings. So what do we learn about personality traits and attitudes and drinking and smoking and marriage, like behaviors and personality traits? What have we learned from these behavioral genetic studies and research that we have done? Okay, I will see you in the next video.